Obama's decision on the Assad regime. He'll be responding to the apparent chemical weapons attack that activists say killed more than 1,300 people. The US military says it's ready for an immediate attack if it is ordered, and two senior officials say the president will act on his own timetable, not one dependent on the UN. Mr. Obama outlined his goals to PBS NewsHour.
Reports of an intercepted phone call by US intelligence that confirms the involvement of the Assad government convinced Washington to act on Syria. However, the United States has yet to produce the material it says proves their case. The United Kingdom has been pushing for the other 4 veto-holding members of the United Nations Security Council to authorize military action against Assad to protect Syrian civilians. However, Russia, an ally of Syria, has failed to agree. No decision has been made.
The voices from the streets were clear. They didn't want the UK to get involved in any action on Syria. And pressure too from the opposition Labour Party.
I think it ought to be difficult for any MP to support military action which is actually illegal. And it's not clear that bombing Syria would be legal under international law.
Hours later, a change of plan from Downing Street. The UK government decided there would be 2 votes by MPs before any direct military action would be taken. The first will be on Thursday night, the second only after UN inspectors make their report on allegations of a chemical attack on Syria. And with that due to take at least 4 days, it means any UK involvement will be delayed. Foreign Secretary William Hague explains the new policy.
This is a democratic country. It is a democratic parliament, and people throughout the world understand that. And we are trying to take decisions on these matters in a way in which everybody's opinions are taken fully into account.
Meanwhile, in Paris, French ministers also held an emergency meeting. They seem of one mind with their British counterparts that the Syrian regime did use chemical weapons and that military action would be justifiable.
Good evening, Lester. Diplomacy came to a dead end today at the United Nations when the Russians again blocked any action against Syria. But tonight, the president faces a new political challenge, as you mentioned, from the Republican Speaker of the House, asking how a military strike serves America's national security. And tonight, Mr. Obama spoke to Judy Woodruff and Gwen Ifill for the PBS NewsHour about how close he is to taking military action.
We do not believe that, given the delivery systems using rockets, that the opposition could have carried out these attacks. We have concluded that the Syrian government, in fact, carried these out. And if that's so, then there need to be international consequences.
Obama said world leaders have to make sure when countries break international norms on chemical weapons that they are held accountable. He backed up Syrian opposition leaders who say last week government forces attacked their neighborhoods in the suburbs of Damascus.
Well, frankly, it's very, very likely now that red line has been crossed in the opinion of everybody in the Obama administration. But he says he has concluded that the regime has indeed used chemical weapons. That means that there will be military action, but as you heard there in that soundbite from the PBS interview, no decision has been taken yet. That decision wouldn't come in an interview like this one. That will come very, very publicly indeed in the White House, presumably when Barack Obama speaks to the nation. In terms of what kind of action will come, just a few details in that interview. First of all, he says there will be a strong signal, and we've heard in the last few minutes that U.S. officials who've been quoted by the Associated Press, they say that the Navy is now increasing its presence in the Persian Gulf with 2 aircraft carriers there now. Barack Obama says he's willing to send a shot across the bow in terms of the military action by the United States.
In Syria, we know from our colleagues in Damascus that people are trying to go about their ordinary lives. The government buildings and shops remain open, but of course there is growing nervousness about the prospect of Western military intervention, and what they've seen is people moving away from government offices, people moving away from military installations, moving out of cities too into the countryside, and then also a lot of Syrians crossing the border too. We know that from one crossing point into Lebanon, Lebanon yesterday, there was something like 16,000 Syrians came across. Now, these are not refugees, I should stress. People are free to move backwards and forwards across the border at this point. But of course, there's concern that this will add ultimately to the large refugee community that's already here. And people in Lebanon very worried about the security and stability of their own country. There are apprehensions too if you look to Iraq and Jordan. Jordan has put troop reinforcements up close to its border with Syria, and in Israel the concern there is really that if the West strikes against Syria, then Syria and its allies could retaliate and strike back against Israel. So that's what people there are preparing for.